I want to talk about 2025 in two different ways. First, the IT services companies and the consultancies themselves and what's going to happen to them, and then the demand for their services and what's going to happen to that demand. So in the first part, we're seeing the largest, most critical disruption to the business model of IT services companies and consultancies that's ever happened. And that's accelerated by generative AI, and it's the culmination of automation, analytics, and artificial intelligence generally, and what it's doing to the staffing pyramid, what it's doing to the pricing model that these companies have traditionally used for decades. And it's going to have to change. It's changing now, and in large part it's changing because these companies and these firms are adopting those technologies internally, seeing the value that's coming from automation, analytics, artificial intelligence, and taking that value and using it themselves, and their clients are saying, we want a piece of that too. So the traditional staffing pyramid is going to collapse. It's going to become something like an obelisk. It's not going to happen overnight. Collapse is a big word. It's going to be an evolution, but it's an evolution that will be accelerated in 2025. That's what's happening internally. Externally, I think the most significant change we're going to see in 2025 will be demand for strategy consulting. There's been a lull post-pandemic around management consulting generally, but what we're seeing now is companies are looking for business model reinvention. They're looking for growth. They've cut all the fat that they can cut. They've done all the operational changes they need. Now they need to grow. Where is growth going to come from? That's a strategy discussion. There's a component of that that's also change management. You can't go through a business model reinvention. You can't pivot to growth without having a lot of change within your own internal organization. So in 2025, we're going to see a resurgence. Again, it's always been there in that demand, but there'll be new demand for strategy consulting and for change management consulting. So when you put those two things together, we're going to see by the end of 2025 or into 2026, a different market. We'll see a different set of competitors in the consulting and IT services space. We're going to see a different way that the ecosystem plays with each other. And we're most critically going to see a difference in the way that engagements are priced from enterprises all the way to global enterprises. Everybody across the ecosystem is going to look at how IT services and consulting are priced differently because of all the change that's happening. So going into 2025, we're going to change a little bit how we're looking at the space that we're looking at. These are IT services companies and consultancies. Last year, we talked about industry as being an important differentiator for a lot of these companies in 2024. And that was built on the idea that we were going to see a replication of what happened with industry clouds happen with Gen AI. So we're going to see industry Gen AI. That adoption didn't happen as fast as we thought it would, but we think the underlying factors are still there. And so we still want to understand how are IT services companies and consultancies going to play to their strengths and play to where they already have clients in specific industries to build up industry-specific solutions, industry-specific offerings, and how that will change their own internal business models. The second thing we want to look at, we get a lot of questions about companies that are not global systems integrators, but enterprise systems integrators. So these are IT services companies and consultancies that are playing at a regional level or playing at a country level. And while we don't want to necessarily apply the rigor and the quality of analysis that we do on the large companies to these smaller companies, we think it's really important to understand how are they changing? What are the acquisitions they're making? What are the new offerings they're doing? What are their changes that they're making to their own organizational structure? And what does that tell us about the demand that's coming from the enterprise side? Because those same enterprises are the ones that are going to grow to become clients of the global systems integrators. So in order for us to better understand the McKinseys, the Accentures, the Wipros of the world, we actually do need to understand what's happening with the EPAMs of the world, with the smaller companies, smaller only in a relative sense, and what's going to happen with them. And then the last thing is ecosystems. We continue to look at how the IT services companies and consultancies work with their technology partners. We have initially been focused more on the software and the cloud vendors. We're expanding that to look at the OEMs. We're expanding it to look at even the data centers, the vast alliances, the ones that have been on the periphery for a lot of the alliances for these companies. But what I think we're seeing now is where everyone appreciates the importance of alliance management. Everyone has already made that step into, okay, this is an important thing for us to invest in. Now we're seeing it's almost like Legos. They've gone from Duplo to all of the Legos, and everyone is trying to assemble them in the right way. Only a couple of companies, only a couple IT services companies and consultancies have figured out how to really build that special, Magic Kingdom castle or whatever it might be, a Dune helicopter, that they can actually be exceptionally good at alliance management. And that exceptionally good at is what's going to separate the companies that are doing fine to the companies that are actually growing and exceeding their peers in the market.